Well, hello everyone. We are back in Birmingham, Alabama, and today I want to take you for a ride back in history. Back in a time that we probably wish never happened, but we hopefully have learned a lot from it, and today we will get to see some of it up close and personal. So today I want to take off, and one of the stops that we want to make, I want to see the jail cell that they incarcerated Martin Luther King in at the Civil Rights Museum in Birmingham. So let's head over there now. This mural's great. It says one city, and you have a lot of people working together to make it happen. I love that. Even the little girl up there blowing bubbles for, I don't know, ambiance or emotional support for everyone working. Who knows? Now if you read this, it says, "Peace be still." On Palm Sunday, 1963, Reverend N.H. Smith, Reverend John Porter, and Reverend A.D. King led a sympathy march from St. Paul United Methodist Church down 6th Avenue North in support of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth and Reverend Ralph Abernathy, who were in jail, 2,000 marchers assembled behind Smith, Porter, and King like a storm cloud. The march climaxed at Kelly Ingram Park, which is where we are now, where the marchers were met by billy clubs and police dogs. In the heat of the event, these three ministers knelt to pray. This statue was built to capture the photograph taken at that event. These three ministers, along with other clergy and laypersons, were at the core of the movement that changed the world. Let's take a look at that. What an incredible statue to enter this park. Isn't that amazing? It's right across from the Civil Rights Center that we're going to go into, but I thought this is the best place to actually start this. And what's sad is that because of how hunted these men were, as you know, Reverend Shuttlesworth was and Ralph Abernathy were both imprisoned for this. A lot of times they would have to meet at funeral homes because the rule for funeral homes were that the only people that could be in there after hours were the dead clergymen and the mortician. And since most of these civil rights leaders were clergymen, that was, you know, that was a safe place to meet. So let's roam around Kelly Ingram Park. This is where that all happened. And they have multiple statues reminding us of what happened here. So let's take a look at those. They call this park Ground Zero also because this is where that whole movement really started and took place. And these, of course, are showing those attack dogs. I like how they captured them in the motion of jumping out at you. Captures the fear. The marches taught the children more about democracy than any lecture. Every advance in civil rights came with the support of American labor. Now here, as we enter this other corner of the park, there's a four-corner entrance to this park. You can see a memorial to many people that were integral in the fight and in the struggle. And there's a plaque here that says, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." Here we see it's dedicated to Ruth Jackson, educator. Julius Ellsbury, the first black Alabama man to die in World War II. Then here we have Pauline Bray Fletcher, the first black registered nurse of Alabama. Here we have Carrie Tuggle, scholar, teacher, and Christian, a life of unselfish service to the troubled and the homeless black boys and girls. In 1903, she founded a school and orphanage, the Tuggle Institute. Now this statue is memorializing the police commissioner Bull Connor's foot soldiers, how he dealt with the foot soldiers, which was sicking police officers and attack dogs on innocent people. You can see right there kind of that scene taking place, and the plaque beneath it says, "This sculpture is dedicated to the foot soldiers of the Birmingham Civil Rights Movement. With gallantry, courage, and great bravery they faced the violence of attack dogs, high-powered water hoses, and bombings. They were the fodder in the advance against injustice, warriors of a just cause. They represent humanity unshaken in their firm belief in their nation's commitment to liberty and justice for all. Wow, it doesn't get much more real than that. Now this is a really great monument right here because it's two-sided, and the sides kind of go together because what this represents are the jail cell doors that Martin Luther King was imprisoned behind, and those were the doors that he wrote John F. Kennedy the letter saying that in the Bible it says that segregation is a sin and that we were committing a sin. And so above, if you can see upside down it says is a sin. But in this little level below it, I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit, you can see it says segregation. So they memorialized it by putting it upside down, segregation is a sin. And what prompted that was the meetup of all the children. 600 children decided to protest one day, and they met up actually right here, right on this corner behind these trees. We'll go over there towards the end of the vlog. That was the Baptist church. You can kind of see it through the trees right there. And there was a bombing there that ended up killing 4 girls, but on that first day when the children met up to protest, Bull Connor had them imprisoned. And the next day, 1,000 children showed up in this park to march and to protest, and that was what really brought attention to John F. Kennedy, to what was going on when people were outraged that these children had been jailed. And what Martin Luther King said in his letter to John F. Kennedy about this was he said, teach the children, make the children know that they don't have to be afraid. And so you have these 2 children standing here, and beneath them it says, I ain't afraid of your jail. Pretty heroic moment. So when we move down here, they have a great statue over here to Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King. It's a great one too, look at that. Many people believe they were going to try and assassinate him here and just weren't able to accomplish it, and then finally did it in 1968. Where the bombing eventually happened that killed the 4 girls that were working or that were under in the basement. And this part of the park has a statue, a memorial to those 4 girls who lost their life that day. And they said over decades they tracked down who the KKK members were that sent that dynamite blast through, and did eventually try them and convict them. Cynthia Morris Wesley. Here are the 4 girls. And I believe the purpose of this centerpiece right here with the 4 fountains was kind of the bringing together of all colors of people. Kind of the black, brown, white, yellow idea, they said. Then you can see going around it says reconciliation, revolution, all the way around. Now here we have a depiction of the water cannons that they mentioned that Bull Connor was sending people out to remove the child crusaders with attack dogs and these water cannons, and this just shows these poor people being blasted with these horrendous water guns. And they said that even though John F. Kennedy, like because of these kind of things being captured in the media finally showing him, John F. Kennedy tried to intervene and was trying to stop Bull Connor, they said he would still indiscriminately lock people up that opposed him. Sad reminders. This is really nice to have here. I just stumbled upon this. It says, "How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." Anne Frank, age 15. They dedicated this tree to the victims of the intolerance. What's really sad is that this area would be frequently bombed and have trouble throughout all the 50s and 60s to the point where it would be nicknamed Birmingham. Now here's the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, and right out front they have a great statue of Reverend Shuttlesworth. And if that name sounds familiar to you more recently, it's because he was eventually awarded the Medal of Honor by Bill Clinton and Barack Obama when he was sworn in. Basically said that it was on this man and other men and people like his shoulders that got me here. So they have a great, really great sculpture to Reverend Shuttlesworth. There's a picture of him at the base here. It says he endured assaults, bombings of his home, and brutal armed beatings by the KKK, and still carried on. We shall overcome. Alright, I just got a ticket. It's $15, and the main thing that I want to see here is Dr. Martin Luther King's jail cell that he wrote that letter. As soon as you enter, they hit you with the barriers section, which shows the whites only and the colored drinking fountain. Then I have a scene here of segregation where there are two white kids inside of a ice cream place, and then there's an African American child standing outside crying. And here's a recreation of the bus, showing the back of the bus, you know. And this is a recreation of a movie theater showing that black influence was giving African Americans hope. People like Louis Armstrong and Cab Calloway performing. Take a look at the differences between the two school classrooms. The 1953 whites only classroom and the black classroom. The picture of Frederick Douglass on the wall. There's a courtroom. And here's an old black barber shop. It says black and in business. Take a look at that. Rabbit foot minstrels. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's called Darky toothpaste. Jeez. Aunt Jemima. That's an old Lifesavers ad. Look at that. And as you work your way through this hall, they have a KKK Birmingham robe. What those men would have wore while they were doing all those bombings in the 60s, along with a cross. Birmingham long had a reputation of one of the South's most fiercely segregated cities. When blacks spoke out for justice, they risked violent retaliation by white segregationists who resorted to terror and threats. Look at that. The sad part is they said that many of the bombings were done by the same people who lived just blocks away from where they were bombing, and yet nothing would be done. And then there's the bus, or simulating the bus that Rosa Parks was on, that we've actually vlogged at the Henry Ford Museum. And then this exhibit just kind of talks about what I mentioned in the park about the funeral parlors being a meeting place. Then this is Rosa Parks sitting on the bus. Here they're talking about the bus boycott when they all decided to not ride the bus on Monday. If we are wrong, the Supreme Court is wrong. If we are wrong, the Constitution of the United States is wrong. And if we are wrong, God Almighty is wrong. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is really interesting. This is a section of the blown up bus from 1961 when the Freedom Ride happened, when a handful of white and black children went out to go out on a freedom ride from Washington to New Orleans. The bus was bombed.
Windows of the bus would change and pipes and all that. Finally threw a bomb into the bus.
Somebody literally threw a bomb into the bus. And here you can see as soon as the bus arrived, because they said only a couple of children were hurt, then all the Freedom Riders, the 17 Freedom Riders, were arrested. The victims. And there it is. The actual jail cell that Dr. Martin Luther King stayed in, and where he wrote that letter to John F. Kennedy. You can see people throw money in there. I don't know if it's a kind of like a making a wish or for his spirit or what, but you can see the bathroom and the sink.
When she is told that Farmtown is closed to colored children.
That's where his food would have been put in. His tray would have been slid in through there. Look at that.
And see her beginning to distort her personality by developing an unconscious bitterness toward white people. And you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son who is asking, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? And you take a cross-country drive and find it necessary to sleep night after night in the uncomfortable corners of your automobile because no motel will accept you.
And there's Dr. King inside that jail cell on Easter weekend. I said it's where he penned the famous letter from a Birmingham jail. So there you go. Arrested for protesting without a permit.
Then on Friday, thousands of youngsters continue marching. With no jail, special water cannons and police dogs. Pictures of dogs attacking made front-page news around the world.
This is an absolutely fantastic museum. If you can check it out, I highly recommend you do. Here's one of the windows from the 16th Street Baptist Church, and they said that some of the panes are missing because this was one of the balcony that was undamaged, but they used those panes to fix other ones that were damaged. Those are the belongings of one of the girls, Denise, who was killed in that bombing. You can see her cross necklace and her purse, and they say that the shoes were on her feet when they found her, and that piece of brick up there was lodged in her head. How sad. And a little children's Bible there at the very bottom. And then this is half of one of Bull Connor's tanks that he would have attacked people with during those demonstrations. That was a fantastic museum. Now let's go over and see the 16th Street Baptist Church. Well, here we are, the 16th Street Baptist Church, where that bombing happened. Now, what's interesting is that the walls of this, I read online, were actually like 2 feet thick, which is one of the things that kind of saved it from completely being destroyed. This was one of the biggest churches in Birmingham, so it was a great meeting place for people. And 1963, as we saw in the museum and in the park, now there were actually, I believe, 2 boys that were killed. They don't really talk that much about them, but they always mention the 4 girls. Let's see if it's open. I don't think that it is, and the people at the museum couldn't tell me if it was or not. National Historical Landmark. This property possesses national significance in commemorating the history of the United States. In 1963, it was the staging ground for the Birmingham Campaign Civil Rights Youth Marches and the place where a bomb killed 4 young girls. Martyred heroines of a holy crusade for freedom and human dignity. Nope, it's closed. Well, somebody is gonna let us in. Our trials and death are a sacred installment of this American heritage for freedom. Here's a plaque on the ground commemorating the Freedom Walk, 1963. Thousands arrested, beaten, injured, and jailed. If you look over here, it looks like you can see old fire damage, or old smoke damage. Then towards the back, they have this little memorial. It says Sunday, September 15th, 1963 at 10:22 a.m. Addie Mae Collins, Denise McNair, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Wesley. Well, my friends, I hope this was a sad reminder so that we never have anything like this ever in the future. Thank you, Robert Lothrock, Brian Burdick, and Deborah Donovan for making contributions to my channel. Thank you everyone for supporting this channel so that we can come and explore places like we did today. We'll see you all tomorrow from Birmingham, Alabama. Goodbye.